Hello, my name is Tony Kelly and I'm the host of Our Health is Our Wealth on Birmingham's Breakthrough TV. And my very first guest is, who I'm welcoming in today's studio, is Michelle Hemmings from Birmingham. It's a pleasure to have you here today, Michelle, as my first guest.
Thank you, Tony, and it's a pleasure being here this morning with you also.
Thank you. Now, some people might ask, who exactly is Michelle Hemmings and why have you had the opportunity of being my very first guest? Tell the viewers, please, who you are.
So I'm Michelle Hemmings, as you all know, and I'm from Perry Bar. I have a daughter and her name is Nicole, and I had a transplant 2 years ago.
Wow, okay. Listeners, viewers, you heard that? She had a transplant 2 years ago. You're going to hear later on what sort of a transplant it was. It certainly wasn't a head transplant. It's Michelle, who I know from so long ago. Okay. So we've just been through a pandemic, and
Yes.
we were in lockdown here in Britain. And you, of course, mentioned you had a transplant, which you'll
I
talk
did.
about in a bit.
Yes.
How have you coped with COVID-19 and the pandemic and lockdown?
It's been very frustrating. It was a bit scared in the beginning.
Michelle, you mentioned that you have a daughter.
I have.
That's an only child.
Yes, yes.
So listen, they always say having an only child is spoiled. Have you spoiled that daughter of yours?
Of course I have.
In what way have you spoiled her?
She's been having parties, birthday parties every year.
Uh-huh.
Hence, that's why I'm a party planner.
Oh, I see. Right. And
yeah.
how old is she now?
She's 24 now, but I must admit, from when she was like 18, she's been very independent. So she's been buying her own things. She's even bought her own car.
Okay, so
We
you haven't
need that.
spoiled her
too
altogether,
much,
not too much. All right. Let's talk a little bit about the pandemic, which has been happening worldwide, and
Yes.
Britain has been in lockdown and so on. How have you'll tell us more about the transplant later, but how have you coped within those months living at home? How has it been for you? Just tell the viewers in your own words.
So we've been told by the transplant coordinators that we're supposed to be shielding. We can't go out apart from in our gardens. So that's what we've been doing. So I've been going in my garden, doing like 3,500 steps and doing mini workouts. I haven't been outside at all, my front garden. So it's been quite difficult. It was a bit scary in the beginning, but I started to get myself busy and occupied by organising events for the future.
Right.
And looking at doing my own book as well. So I want to do my own book and tell people
your
my
story, yeah.
Yes.
Well, I like your disciplined approach because
Thank
you
you.
know, in terms of, yes, if you're one of those persons who has to shield
Yes.
and the virus is out there, then you can't be out there enjoying life or what have you.
Because
that's
we're
good.
immune suppressant.
Right.
So that means our
System.
immune system is suppressed.
What have you been doing to keep yourself occupied and mentally still be all there?
Okay, so during the pandemic, I've been keeping myself busy by doing a lot of walking. So I've been trying to do like 3,500 steps a day, doing mini workouts, doing a bit of housework, a bit of reading, and just trying to keep myself occupied and motivated throughout the pandemic. Yeah.
Now, you said walking. This is not walking out on the streets.
Oh, no. This is within the garden.
In the back garden.
In the back
Right,
garden.
Okay. Viewers, you heard that. I don't want you to think Michelle was out there walking all over Birmingham.
I wanted to go outside, but we have been told that we're not allowed to go outside. So I've kept to my gardens. So just to keep myself safe,
Right.
I just stayed in my house or in my garden as well.
Well, that has to be admired that you've done all of that. Okay?
Yes.
Now, I remember you saying not so long ago that your parents celebrated what was their 46th
the
wedding
46th,
anniversary.
Yes.
How did they
46th.
manage to celebrate that in the midst of a pandemic?
Well, I
Or
ordered.
was it a low-key affair?
Yeah, it was low key. I ordered some Nando's, so we went out for a drive. So we just stopped in the car, and my daughter went inside and collected the food. And then we had Nando's, we had drinks, we had music, we were talking, laughing at home.
Okay.
So it was a good day, and the day was wonderful as well.
Right. Well, do pass on our congratulations
I
to your
will,
parents.
thank you.
46 years of wedded
46.
bliss It's good, and
Yeah.
you've also lived to be here
Of
to
course.
see all that happen.
Okay, so I'm a party planner. I've been a
Mhm.
party planner for about 17 years now.
Okay.
So I do birthdays, weddings, funerals. I
Mhm.
do all sorts of planning arrangements. I stopped um, doing the party planning 5 months before my transplant, because by then I was so breathless. Even though I had help from my daughter, friends and family, I gave that up. And yeah, it's still there in the background. So when I'm fully 100% ish, I'll go back to it.
Now I'm known for my lack of technology.
Yeah.
Is a lot of the party planning done on the laptop, on the computer?
It
Which makes
starts
it.
from here.
Mhm.
You have to think.
Mhm.
I have my laptop as backup,
Mhm.
and then to actually do the event,
Mhm.
I have all my stocks and decorations, and I have
Mhm.
people that come and help
Oh,
myself.
right, I'm with you.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Um, so how big is your family? And tell us.
Okay, my family consists of my mum, my dad, my daughter, and my younger brother.
Oh, there's a younger brother.
Yes.
Okay. And what's the
Yes.
younger brother? Have you had what we call in Caribbean terms puss and dog cat fights, or you get on?
We get on fairly okay.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And
he's all right.
and has he supported you during your
Yes,
illness?
definitely.
Oh,
Yes,
well,
he has.
big up to him then
Thank
for
you.
doing that.
Thank
Yes, that's
you.
what family are about. So, have you been someone who has always looked after your health? Are you conscious about health?
Yes.
Remember the topic is our health
Yeah.
is our wealth. Where do you come into
I've
that?
always had it in my head, your health is your wealth.
Mm-hmm.
So I always looked after my health
Mm-hmm.
until I had this diagnosis of my interstitial lung disease. But before that, I was fine. I was well. I was eating healthy. I was exercising. Yeah.
So when did this diagnosis come about? When were the symptoms starting, and what was happening, and who helped, who took you where, and what happened? Tell the viewers.
So I was sick for 22 years. Can you
Oh.
believe I was sick for 22 years?
Yes.
I was coughing for 22 years.
Mm-hmm.
On the day after my transplant, my coughing went away. So
Wow.
I understand what people are going through at the moment with all this coughing. But I was coughing for 22 years. Also, other symptoms were I was breathless. I was being sick 2 or 3 times a day, 2 or 3 times a week. It was really hard, and climbing up the stairs, it was the most difficult time I've had as well. But yeah.
So just going up a flight of stairs, you're out of breath, no
Yes.
energy.
Yes.
Uh,
This was more 5 years before my transplant, so I was carrying an oxygen tank on my back, on my shoulder, and I was breathless. I was coughing. To climb up a flight of stairs would take me about 10 to 15 minutes. I will walk up a flight. I walk up 2 steps. Then I will sit down, take a breather, and then I will start again. So then, like I said, it would take about 10 to 15 minutes just to climb up a flight of stairs.
So this was a condition to do with the lung. What was the
Yes.
actual name of it?
I was diagnosed with interstitial lung disease and mild hypertension.
And is there any cause? This just happens randomly, or is it something that
happened-
runs in the family, or?
No, it happens more in the BAME community. So we're more often to get this type of condition. Yeah.
Right. So you ended up with an oxygen
Yes.
tank, and you also this was for sleeping purposes as well. You
Yes.
have to.
So 2 years before my transplant, I was on oxygen 24/7. So I was on it in the day, and I was on it throughout the night. Throughout the night, the machine will make so much noise, but after a while you get used to it, and I knew that was helping me to breathe throughout the night.
So did your parents, or were there additional carers who would have to come in and see to you during the night, making sure the oxygen was working and that you weren't
Yeah.
running out, or?
They would check on me now and again,
And,
but I was okay looking after my oxygen and my medication.
Right.
But they would check on me just to make sure that everything is fine. I did have carers, say about 6 months before my transplant, because I was really struggling by then, and I had carers thereafter as well.
Right. So I presume at some stage you were put on the transplant waiting list.
Yes, I was.
When did that take place?
I was put on there for about 15 years. I was sick enough to have the transplant, but not sick enough to have it now.
Mm-hmm.
So a year before my transplant, I was put onto the priority list, meaning that I was really bad by then,
Mm-hmm.
and it's either have a transplant now or I may not have seen the year after. So after a year, I had my transplant, and I asked the question, how long would I have had if I hadn't have had the transplant?
Mm-hmm.
And they said probably about a year.
Mm-hmm.
So when they put me onto the priority list
Yes.
a year before, it was the right time.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So I'm sure I read something somewhere, because I have followed your story a lot, Michelle,
Okay.
where you actually went down to the Royal Papworth Hospital on more than one occasion in readiness
Yes.
for the operation,
Yes.
and it didn't take place. Tell the viewers something about that. I think that
So whilst you're on the transplant list,
mm-hmm.
I had to be going to Papworth Hospital
Mm-hmm.
every month just to give some blood tests.
Mm-hmm.
That blood test was really important. So the blood test would be a way of finding a match for myself.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So they'll use my bloods to find the best match,
Perfect match.
for
Mm-hmm.
myself. Yeah, so I was called down to Papworth twice. The first time they called me, they came and picked me up by private ambulance,
Right.
took me down to Papworth. I got dressed and cleansed down, and I was waiting around to see if this operation would go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
They would come and check on me now and again, and then they'll come back and say either it's going ahead or it's not going ahead.
Mm-hmm.
So they came back and said it's not going ahead because the lung that they had, it was a perfect match for me,
Mm-hmm.
but when they did all the checks, it wasn't it wasn't right at the time to put in me.
Okay.
So then I was driven back home that same night. I was called again, but I was too ill to have the transplant. And then they called me again in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
They came and picked me up, drove me down. By then I wasn't too emotional, I wasn't too scared.
Mm-hmm.
I was just so poorly. I was just so sick and breathless. So I couldn't even think about if it's going to work or not. So they drove me down, and I had my transplant. And I said to my mum, if everything goes accordingly well, she must squeeze my hand.
Mm-hmm.
So when she squeezed my hand, I knew that everything was okay.
Oh, well, I love that. That's a
Yeah.
lovely story. And it amounts to what we always talk about, third time lucky.
Yeah.
Twice you went and were not able to have it, but on the third occasion,
Yes.
back in 2018, you did.
Yes.
But you didn't just have it on your own. This is where we talk
no.
about Enid Blyton, the well-known English children's writer, has a book called The Famous Five.
Okay.
Now you, Michelle, and 4 others make up the Famous Five for the Royal Papworth Hospital.
Yes, we
Tell
do.
the viewers about that, please.
So we're called the Famous Five because there were 5 of us. There were 2 elder ladies who had 2 hearts, 2 younger gentlemen who had double lung transplant, and myself, I had a single lung transplant. Hence, that's why we all called the Famous Five. And this all took just 36 hours. As you know, there were 5 patients like myself, 5 surgeons, and over 40 odd staff. And I did all that within 36 hours, which is absolutely amazing.
Wow. Mm-hmm. And the skill of the surgeons to be able to do that.
Yes.
I can remember the first heart transplant was done back in South Africa by Dr. Christian Bernard.
Okay.
And that's years ago. I was a child then, and it became such big news back in Jamaica then, how somebody's got a new heart inside of them.
Wow.
And on this occasion, 2 people had hearts,
Yes.
and 2 others had double lungs,
Yes.
and you had a single lung.
Definitely.
We've got to give credit and praise to the National Health Service
Of
and the
course.
hand of the Creator to guide
Yes.
these people through this.
Definitely.
So, are you aware of the single lung you have in you? What gender is the person?
Yes. I was just recently told that it was a female
Mm-hmm.
in her early 40s.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pleased about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Eh, and I also found out something fairly recently. Your two lungs remain in you, and then they attach this single lung, the working
Yes.
lung. That they don't
So
actually take out the two lungs.
yes, they have.
Oh, they did.
So this
Okay.
side they're taking out the bad
The bad lungs
lung.
gone
Yeah.
altogether. Oh, I
So they're
see.
both bad, but this was worse.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got the new donor lung on this side,
Mm-hmm.
and my lung is not doing nothing at all.
All right. It's
Yeah.
just
So
this.
all those people out there who's complaining about they can't run and jog and this and that,
Uh-huh.
you know, if I can walk and run,
Right.
so can you. So.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Mhm.
Now, as you know, one of my interests is diabetes.
Mhm.
And I remember you telling me something about the offset of the operation.
Yes.
Diabetes came your way. Explain how that happened.
So due to the transplant and the amount of medication that we were put on, I'm now steroid induced.
Mm-hmm.
So this means that I'm a diabetic.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm on insulin at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm on 6 units every morning.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to get myself off,
Mm-hmm.
but with good diet, exercise, I'm sure I will come off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, that's one of the sort of knockbacks of some operations where
Yes.
you have to take steroids.
Mhm.
It's not type 1 diabetes, it's not type 2, as you rightly said, it's
Yeah.
steroid induced
Yes, it is.
diabetes.
Yeah.
But considering all that you have been through, Michelle,
Mhm.
it's what one would say the lesser of two evils, isn't it? In terms of where you were and all
Yes.
you've explained to the viewers in terms of the oxygen
Yes.
tank, I should say. You're in a better place now. Here you are living and
Definitely.
breathing, and surely you'd rather this life than the one you had
Definitely.
before.
Because before, as you know, I was on my oxygen. 2 years before, 24/7, could hardly walk. I was in my wheelchair. I could hardly talk without coughing, so I was coughing 24/7. But now, no coughing. I'm able to fly, drive, climb up the
Right.
stairs. I even took part in the British Transplant Games last year
Okay.
and did a 1.8-mile walk. And I raised over £950.
Wow.
And I even put on my own charity and awareness event.
Yes, which I attended as well, and I tell the
Yes.
viewers it was well supported.
It was
Yes,
wonderful.
yes,
It was
yes,
fabulous.
and you could see the party planning within you because all the bantings and the buntings and the trimmers and the balloons and everything.
Yeah.
It was top notch.
Thank
Yes,
you.
yeah,
Thank
yes.
you.
I
I was
thoroughly
supposed to put
enjoyed.
another one this year, but due to the pandemic, and I was supposed to take part in the British Transplant Games, but due to the pandemic. But I'm going to put all these back on and take part in the British Transplant Games next year, God's willing.
Yes.
But yes.
Okay. Well, I'm fascinated because some people will have these transplants and then just go back into their shell or back into their routine or so on. But you've taken it to another level, whereas a
Yes.
black woman, you're out there now as a campaigner, an advocate, an
Yes.
activist to get people to become more involved. Because tell us about donor and where black people fit into as donors or so on, and the changing of the law. Tell us a bit about that so we
Yeah.
can take that on
So
board.
ever since I left school, I've always been an active person. College, working, and it's like I started up my own business. And now, due to my transplant, I do a lot of events where I'm invited as a guest speaker. And just talking about my journey, about organ donation. This week is Organ Donation Week, between the 7th and the 13th
of September. Every year.
So I put on a walk, Sunday just gone. I'm putting on an online concert. These are all to raise awareness for organ donation. Now, there's a lack of the black and the Asian community who's, well, we're all on the organ donor list.
So, Michelle, my understanding is that the law changed within Britain in terms of organ donations.
Yes, it did.
Kindly tell the viewers about that, please.
So the law change came in the 20th of May this year. This means that everybody is considered to be an organ donor.
Really? Okay.
Yes. So we're all in, unless you opt out. So I'm just encouraging people to stay in and not to opt out, because we need more organ donors from the Black and the Asian community. If it wasn't for myself, if I hadn't have had the donor, then I wouldn't have been here to tell my story and to encourage people to stay on the organ donor register. So, yeah.
I'd support you on that, Michelle, because I've been to a lot of funerals in this country where people are buried
Yes.
or cremated, and I think to myself, if those people had a donor card at the time, whether it be a kidney donor card or whatever organ donor card, parts of their body. I know it's not a subject. In some communities, it's a taboo subject,
It is.
but in others, it's consent. With the person probably who died quite accidentally. Let's say they weren't ill with all sorts of ailments, strong and fit and healthy, and they just died of natural causes. Wouldn't it be better if their cornea from the eye or their heart or their lung or what have you, their liver, could be given to somebody who is out to help someone else, which is exactly what happened with the famous five.
There's so many people out there waiting to be transplanted, but they're either gonna die waiting or they'll get that special gift of life.
Right, yes.
So the more we stay on, the more you'll be helping a lot of people out there who's in need of an organ transplant.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's I'm pleased that the law has changed. So
Same
those
here.
who don't want to have that, they have to actually fill in a form
And
saying
opt out.
and opt out. I would
Yes.
rather not have any parts of my internal organs be given to anybody else.
But I would encourage those people who's thinking about opting out to sit down with your family and talk about it.
I'd agree.
Yeah. So when that time comes, at least your family or friends will know what your decision was before you passed away. But please, I'm begging you to stay in and not to opt out, because there's a lot of people at home, in the hospital, waiting for that organ.
Yes, and you one of your brothers, sisters, or one of your family members or friends might end up being that person who is able to do that, which is such a blessing if one is able to. Tell us a bit about the news outlets and so on that you've been on, because I've seen you on the Royal Papworth Hospital website, and I've seen you in sort of some of the black newspapers campaigning. Tell the viewers about some of those.
So I've been in a few newspapers like the Phoenix paper, the Voice, PHA, Pulmonary Hypertension Association. I've even been in the Diabetes newsletter, Multability. I've been in so many articles. It's been amazing. I'm just telling my story and trying to encourage people.
And here you are doing the same on Our Health is Our Wealth, Breakthrough TV,
Of course.
which is so good. And we are geared towards the African Caribbean, or shall we say the black community, and we're wanting to get the message out there.
Of course.
You see why it's important? I had to have you as my top number one guest on the show. I couldn't think of anybody else more important than you to come and share your story with us.
Thank you.
So we're going to come to an end now, Michelle. I want you to give the viewers links where they can, if necessary. They think, oh, I want to hear a bit more about Michelle. I want to know more about her charity. I see behind you, you have Michelle Hemmings, your poster that you use. Lovely pictures there of you, both in hospital and on your recovery and all the journey you've done in terms of the transplant games. How can viewers get hold of you and become more aware of what you're actually offering?
Okay, if you look on michellehemmings.co.uk, you'll find a whole heap of information about myself and some stories about my journey. Also, you can catch me on Facebook, which is Michelle Hemmings. Also on Instagram, which is lungs.forlife. So if I tell you that again, you can catch me on michellehemmings.co.uk, also on Facebook, Michelle Hemmings, and also on Instagram, which is lungs.forlife. life.
Wow. Viewers, you heard that from, I wouldn't say the horse's mouth, but you heard that from Michelle herself. Various places where you can get in touch with her and
Yes.
link with her and be part of giving donations in terms of monetary donations to what in effect is a good cause.
Yes.
We're in the midst of COVID-19 and epidemic, and we know about health inequalities within the black community in terms of systemic racism, disparities, etc. Here is Michelle making a real difference in our community. Michelle, I can't thank you enough for coming and telling us about your powerful story
Thank
and
you.
how you've overcome all the trials and tribulations.
Thank
and,
you.
And I'm sure within that, you must have on occasions given thanks to your Creator, to whoever.
Oh yes, every day I send blessings to God, because if it wasn't for my donor and for God and for my family, I wouldn't be here telling you this wonderful, amazing story.
Yes.
So yes, every day I give my blessings to God.
What final message would you want to give to the viewers and listeners, for that matter, to take away from this interview?
I would like to say, I would like to encourage people to stay on the organ register list and not to opt out, to talk to your friends and family before opting out, but I wouldn't want you to opt out, because there's many people out there who's waiting for organ, and one of you could be that person that will help that person who needs that organ. So I'm just encouraging people out there to stay on and not to opt out. Also, I work alongside with Organ Donation UK and also Blood and Transplant, and they have been amazing. So if you need any more information from myself or Organ Donation, you can contact Organ Donation UK. To contact myself, the details is in the description.
Yes. Thanks very much, Michelle. I salute you, your courage and your
Thank you.
tenacity, and how you've then decided to take the message forward with all the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Pleasure to have had you as my first guest.
Oh,
Thanks
thank
very
you.
much.
It's a pleasure. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Okay. Thanks to our sponsors, African Caribbean Millennium Center, based in Birmingham on Dudley Road, New Style Radio, Breakthrough Media Studios, and Breakthrough TV. Until next time, see you soon. Hello, my name is Tony Kelly, and I'm the host of Our Health is Our Wealth on Breakthrough TV. And my next guest on this program will be Madge Milligan Green. She is the Chief Executive Officer of the Bethel Health and Wellbeing Center, and she deals with 3 issues in particular: mental health, sickle cell, and thalassemia. She is a volunteer who has a lot to tell, so tune in next time to hear what Madge Milligan Green tells us in terms of all these issues and how they affect us within the black community.